I'm delighted to be joined now by Lindsay Peterson from the University of Nebraska. Tell us a little bit about your role. I think here in Ireland we saw the viral video of the volleyball game that went viral all over the world for all the right reasons, because it did break the record for the most attendance at a women's sporting event. Over 90,000 people were there. Lindsay, maybe bring us back to that day first and what that was like.
The day in itself was very surreal, it was just overwhelming to think how far we've come in women's sports and for the sport of volleyball, and to witness the emotions not only of our athletes but those that had come before and really laid the foundation to get to this point, and to see them in attendance and really see the impact and what the real raw emotions they felt was indescribable. It was really touching and really got our attention to see, wow, this has been a long time coming, but it also happened, if you think about it, it happened pretty quickly. And to think of where we continue to go from here is the sky's the limit, and it's exciting.
Yeah, and it happened in volleyball. It's probably not the most well known across the world for playing at a high professional level. I don't know, do we have many teams here in Ireland? We have a couple, all right, but that it was volleyball as well that done that. It's incredible.
Yeah, and we have a very loyal fan base in Nebraska, and for our sporting events anyway. But for a women's sport to be inside a football stadium and to exceed attendance, set a world record, but even the football stadium can't be that full because we were able to have fans down on the field. So that stadium will never be that full again for an event. And to think that we were able to accomplish that for a female sport is really mind-blowing. And but I also think it allows us to see what our future generations can dream of, and we hopefully inspired so many that day, not even just young girls, but just so many for this women's sports in general to really start following it and to get involved. And we've seen the effects of it throughout our volleyball season. The rest of our season, you saw in several different programs, we're able to break records, and the media following and the visibility we received just for the season were outstanding. And so I think it's really exciting, but I think it's just starting to touch on where women's sports can go.
And talk to us a little bit about the plan and how it all came about that you wanted to go and break this record.
Well, we initially had held the record for attendance at a match, and then it was broken by our rival in Wisconsin, and the venue that they were able to break in, it was their basketball venue. We don't have a venue that would hold that capacity to be able to break that record, and so our only option was to take it outside and to play it in our football stadium. And at first that seemed like unrealistic to think about bringing an indoor sport outside and trying to play it, and then the wheels started turning and we realized it was probably doable. And we knew we were taking a great risk, and there was a lot of question marks, and would we be able to fill it? Our original thought was maybe we could get 50, 60,000 there, hopefully. But when we saw the momentum once ticket sales started, our expectation grew, and then we knew we had the shot of filling the stadium and even setting a world record. And so incredible amount of planning. There were definitely a lot of things that had to fall into place to make it work. But once it occurred, to hear people make comments that the real emotion they felt, there was a lot of fans that had tears in their eyes witnessing it, that they walked away with a greater feeling and memory from that than they did when they attend the football games there that sell out every Saturday. So that speaks volumes to how much the event impacted so many.
Yeah, I think that video, it gave everybody goosebumps. We got to watch it back today, and I remember where I was when I first seen it and was like, whoa, and I don't know much about volleyball, but I left thinking, God, this is possible. And I think that's something that struck me, that you took the risk. You could have said, no, that's not going to be possible. 90,000, no way. You took the risk, and, look what happened.
Yeah, and we definitely ran into roadblocks that we had to get creative. And every roadblock we had, there was great doubt. I'm not going to lie. There was a lot of doubt and nerves going into it. And but with every roadblock, we tried to find a way around it, because we knew that this is something that could be attainable, but it was worth it. If you're going to try to make a statement or try to do something that no one else has done, you're going to have to get creative and not let a roadblock stop you and go around. And so I think that was probably the biggest issue is with every roadblock, we came up with another solution or another reason to try around it. And we did take the risk, and it did pay off. I mean, the reward was great from it. And that's what we learned from that. And not that we want to take that risk every year and do that every year, but it was well worth it.
And I was asking you just before we began about LGFA, and if you've ever seen a game and you said, you know, you've watched a little bit and you're going to hopefully come back and see a game, what advice would you give to the LGFA for taking those risks and maybe changing the perception a little bit?
Yeah, I think any type of change is uncomfortable. So you have to understand that it's not necessarily going to be a smooth road. There's going to be peaks and valleys, but to really relish in the peaks and to use that momentum when you hit those valleys to keep propelling you forward, and to not let a little bit of doubt or disappointment stop you, that you have a goal and a plan, and you've got to be willing to put yourself out there and keep fighting the battles. And I think they got everything. The momentum's going for them. They have the plan, and they're willing to do it. And I really think that this women's sports in general has an opportunity to grow exponentially when given the visibility and the opportunity. And so for there to be the support to do this, to allow them to excel on the big stage, is exciting.
Brilliant, Lindsay. Thanks so much for joining me.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, I'm delighted to be joined by Holly Murdock, Head of Operations in women's football. Tell me a little bit about your role, Holly.
So I am working on the Barclays Women's Super League and Barclays Women's Championship. So they're the top two tiers of the domestic game in England. So I lead the day-to-day running of the business, the league delivery, and developing the future strategy.
Well, it was so inspiring, I think, to listen to you speak there at the launch. I suppose you've yourself, being in such a high role as a woman, I'm sure you've faced your own challenges.
Yeah. People ask me this all the time, and I think I have worked in sport all of my career, and sport has traditionally tended to be quite male-dominated. I don't know if that's just part of my kind of personality, but I suppose I've never really thought about it being a challenge, and maybe that came from always working in sport. I've never known anything different. I think that there's something inside of you. If you want to work in women's sport in particular, you have to be somewhat of a bit of someone who's willing to get to have doors shut but find other avenues to go down and keep going. So I don't think I've never had any huge challenges in that space that I'm aware of, but probably because I've just pushed through them as they've come along.
And we've definitely seen that. Like, if you look at the WSL, the attendance figures are constantly being blown out of the water. I think even just the perception, it's great to see. Why do you think it is changing?
I think there's a number of things. I think one, this hasn't happened overnight. There's been 10, 15, 20 years of incredibly hard work by brilliant people who've knocked down doors to make sure there is a Barclays Women's Super League, and fought for investment and fought for the opportunity to do it. And I think what is really shifting now is, one, we've had huge successes in the major tournaments. The Lionesses have really brought football home, quite literally.
You're talking to an Irish person now.
For the English. And the World Cup was phenomenal. And during that World Cup, we had 93 players from the Women's Super League participate in that World Cup from all nations. We were the highest, we had the most amount of players participating in that World Cup. So having those moments where the globe is watching your game and being able to then translate that into domestic fandom has been phenomenal for us. So I think they are real moments in time that we've seen shifts in perception around our game, and then material kind of change when it comes to attendances, viewership, brand sponsorship opportunities, broadcast deals. And, we did our first broadcast deal 3 or 4 years ago now. So having women's football on free-to-air television is huge. Just kind of changing that it's out there and people are watching it. So it's a really exciting time for the game.
How do you change perception? If there's people out there that have never been to a women's game, just because I suppose they don't follow a team, they don't know anything about it, but how do you change that perception to say, look, give it a chance, go out and see? And I'm sure your mind will be changed when you see the skill levels.
Yeah, I think I think there's shifting perceptions, but there's also creating awareness. So I think initially creating that awareness. So I think there's probably many people that don't even know how to engage with women's sport. Using myself as a sample size, I'll say to the parents at my kids' school, did you know that Aston Villa women, I live in North Birmingham, are playing this weekend against Man United? Like, do you want to go with the kids? And they'll be like, oh, I didn't even realise it was happening.
Yeah.
I'd love to go. So I think the initial barrier we've got to break down is awareness. And we have to do that through approaching our product, women's football or women's sport, in a very different way to probably how traditionally sport has been sold or created awareness around. We have to market it. We have to build kind of great marketing campaigns and work with media partners to make sure that we're talking about it, so we can start to build that awareness, which will then help shift that perception that, once people are aware it's there, then perceptions will change, and they'll start to participate and attend those games.
And it's about having icons as well. I know that was mentioned today. Someone we have is Katie McCabe, playing with Arsenal. Yeah, and she's known all over the world now.
Yeah.
I suppose it's about building those profiles too.
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, we have phenomenal athletes playing in our league. They're phenomenal individuals. They're athletes, but they really want to change things. You see it, Katie, Leah, Mary Earps, my God, there's too many names to mention. They're all out there kind of fighting the fight for women's sport and creating kind of new narratives and engaging a new audience. It's fascinating to now watch, young boys and girls really engaging with these individuals, because we know that many of our fans follow players, not clubs.
Yeah.
And we really want to, do what we can do to support those athletes as they're kind of going through this journey. And my God, that what they're doing for our game is phenomenal, and eternally grateful for what they're doing. And let's continue to make that happen.
Long may it continue. Thank you so much, Holly, for joining me.
Pleasure.
Cheers. Emma Duggan, delighted to be joined by you. We're in January, so that means one thing, pre-season. How is things going?
Yeah, all good. We've been back a good while now, probably the guts of 2 months now, early November. So we got a good block of work done. So we're well prepared going into the league now.
Ah, brilliant. And what is it like? Obviously, new management in this year.
Yeah, it's different again. Obviously, we had new management last year, and obviously new management again this year. So it is different, but the lads have been really good. They're so organised, they're so prepared, they're really driven, really motivated to, I suppose, get the team back up to the top where we want to be as well. So, so far so good.
And what was it like last year? Obviously, it must have been a bit of a challenge. Davy stepped away after the Leinster final against Dublin. So, that's right in the middle of the season. That's not easy for any team.
Yeah, it was a massive challenge. It really was, and I'd be lying to say otherwise if things never really go as smoothly as what's portrayed in the media or whatever. But it was different for us. Obviously, we'd come off the back of probably really 4 successful years between intermediate and senior and stuff like that. So it's difficult to keep motivation high and hunger levels high when you've had such successful years. So it was always going to be difficult last year. We probably didn't plan for it to go the way it did, but look, that happens, and it's given us a kick in our step now this year, and we really want to push on and get back to the top, and I suppose right the wrongs from last year as well.
Yeah, I was speaking to Sean Ennis not that long ago, and that was something I got from her. It felt like it was maybe a kick in the right direction. This happened to us, but we're hungrier than ever. Like she was saying, I can't wait to get back. And I said, geez, are you not enjoying the break? But she was really eager just to get back in with me than to go again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, because we've had, we've been really lucky to have the good days that we've had, it makes you want them even more, and especially after last year, like losing in that All-Ireland quarter-final, like it really is devastating knowing you're out, that early, and then you're watching on All-Ireland final day thinking, that was us last year and that could have been us, but it just didn't work out that way. But it really does motivate you, and I think everyone has proven that this year. And we still have the core group that stuck around, but equally we've brought in new girls, and there's girls that are chomping at the bit there to get in and get a Meath jersey and make their debut. Some have never played for Meath before, which is really, really good. It freshens things up, and I think that's what we need. A mixture of probably a bad year last year to motivate the girls that have stuck around, and then the new girls that have come in, they've seen the success that we've had, and they want some of that as well. So it's really good. It's a good mix at the minute.
Yeah, it's having that knock-on effect. And like for you, you're so young, but you're like the household name within Meath. There's a number of girls, but how do you find all of that at such a young age?
Yeah, do you know what? I nearly feel like one of the older girls at the minute. Just because I suppose I've been lucky. I have good experience, and I'm coming into my 5th season now, which is kind of hard to believe as well. So yeah, I probably am a little bit more experienced than a lot of the girls that are there, which is nice. I like being in ear for them. If they're struggling with anything, coming into a setup like that, it can be quite daunting. So it's good to be able to share my experience with them and try help them as much as I can. But it's weird because I'm probably that in betweener where I'm still young, but at the same time I've probably been thereabouts for a long time. So.
And when you look back at winning those All-Irelands, like 3 All-Irelands intermediate, then you have 2 senior All-Irelands, having those experiences and those moments, in Croke Park, to be there with the Brendan Martin Cup, your family, your club mates, like all there supporting you, like that's stuff of dreams, really.
Yeah, it's invaluable experience, really. Getting to play in Croke Park on All-Ireland final day, like you really can't beat it. And I'm one of the lucky few really footballers that get to do it. Some people go through their whole career having maybe never played in Croke Park or never played in All-Ireland final. So I really am lucky and I'm blessed, and to be able to share that with the new girls as well is good. But a lot of them, they're not fazed by a lot of things either. They're coming in with no pressures, no anything. They just want to play for me. Then they want to get into the team, which is really nice to see. And I think it's just pushing us on as much as we can.
And we've seen Vicky Walls-off playing in the Ireland Sevens at the minute. I'm sure you're delighted for her, but at the same time, want her to play for Meath. What was it like when she said, "I'm going to play in rugby"?
I think she had said it to myself and Katie New there one of the days. She said, "Look, girls," it was actually quite of just a kind of a passing comment thing. She didn't really like sit us down as such, but I probably knew it was coming. And as much as I wanted to play for me, then I'd love to play with her, but for an athlete like herself, I think these opportunities are always going to come about. I think it was pretty off the bat for her as well. I'm not sure she was expecting. I think it was actually this time last year that the first rumour started circulating about it, and I was saying to people, that's not true, there's no truth in that, I don't know where it's coming from.
That's what I felt like when I read it.
Yeah, she had said it as well initially, so I think it was quite a surprise for her about how it all came about. But she's loving it. I think it's a massive challenge for her. It's a new game, and it's quite technical, and it's just very, very new for her. So she's finding a massive challenge, but that's Vicky all over. She'll thrive in pressure environments like that. So she's doing great, and she's working really hard to get what she wants from this. Yeah,
and obviously the aim is to go to the Olympic Games. Yeah. What would it mean to have your friend from Dunboyne at the Olympics? That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, do you know what, I don't think about it too much, but myself and the girls are saying we have to get over, and please God she gets there, and I've no doubt that she will. We'll have to get over for some sort of day trip or something. I think it is kind of clashing with championship and stuff like that. It's falling in the summertime, which will be a busy time, but I will have to get over it and support her. It'll be a dream come true for her, it'll be a dream come true for us as well, and I suppose being able to show our support for her, even though we slightly hate her for it, but being able to show her support will be brilliant, and please God she gets there now.
Is there any chance she could come back, say after July? It's in July, the Olympics. Any chance she could come back? Are you holding out some hope?
I don't really think so. I won't even put that out there because I think it's a very slim chance. Just I suppose she's in a contract anyway. Yeah. So that kind of brings about difficulties, but I know. Look, I think she's just focused on the job at hand. I don't think she's thinking about, she's enough sports to be thinking about. Yeah. So I don't think she's thinking too much about that. But Vicky's always going to kind of be involved in some way, as well. She's obviously a really good friend to a lot of us off the pitch. But she has a lot of passion for me, than she always will. So to stay somewhat involved, I know she'll be chomping at the bit to do that as well. So.
And for you, looking at that, to see Vicky playing at that level, she's obviously been over at the AFLW, like so many of the girls have been in professional and semi-professional environments. Is that something that you're like, I want to do something like that? I want to be in a professional sporting environment.
Yeah, look, it's obviously appealing like any kind of sports person. Would always kind of dream of being a professional and dedicating their whole life really to that sport and day-to-day living. Just thinking about sport, like it's what we do generally, but we have to work a job as well. But for me right now, like I can't even think about that stuff. I have so much to think about with me, then there's so much to look forward to, and there's so many exciting times, and obviously I'm still in college, and I'm really enjoying that. So right now, obviously, as much as you know, kind of AFLW is out there at the minute, and there's so many players going over. It's obviously something that's kind of in the back of your head, and it's one of these experiences you'd nearly, you know, feel bad for giving up. But you know, I love football back here. I love playing for Meath. It's such a passion. I could never imagine myself not playing for Meath. So for now, that's definitely where I'm fixed.
Brilliant. And today at the launch, you know, we heard so many different statistics on attendances at games, and one of the statistics was that 59% of people said they have never attended a women's sporting event. Did that shock you at all?
Yeah, I think that was probably the one standout stat I'd say that shocked me. It was probably one of the first ones, and I was thinking, oh my God, like 59% is an outrageous figure. Like, it really is. You think of the amount of people that, you know, a lot of my friends are, you know, interested in sport, and a lot of people that you talk, women's sport, and a lot of people you talk about have, you know, say followed even, you know, Meath ladies in the rise and stuff like that, or like, you know, big Dublin fans and stuff, you know, all this kind of stuff. And to see that nearly 60% of people have never been to a ladies game, like a women's sport, it really is kind of eye-opening. You know, there's obviously a lot of things that we need to, as much as we say it's come on leaps and bounds, that stat is definitely kind of, you know, it throws you back a bit, and you're thinking, you know, what more can we really do to prove to people that, you know, it's an attractive game, and that, you know, we work just as hard as the men. And, you know, I think that, you know, the product out there and what we produce is pretty good, and it's of a pretty high standard. So we kind of have to look at that a lot, and I think it just shows that as much as we have come on, there's just so much work there to be done as well.
Yeah, like, how do you change the perception? I would have thought it has changed quite a lot. Like, you know, say for you within Ireland, Meath, Dunboyne, like, everybody knows your name. You know, they do, and because they've seen what you've done out there in Croke Park, probably the All Irelands, especially because of the amount of people that watch that. You know, they've seen it, and they've seen the skill level that's been produced as well. So you do sort of think, well, what else can we do? More coverage, more interviews. I don't know. What else can everyone do?
Yeah, I think, you know, listening there today, like, there's a lot of things that probably need to still improve. You know, people were talking about there, like, visibility, you know, accessibility, you know, obviously, like, the normal things like funding and stuff like that. That's always kind of gonna be an issue, really. But that does obviously need to be fixed. I think that is one issue the GPA are trying to push as well. But I think visibility, definitely. I think perceptions have changed. But I remember speaking before about kind of the language people use nearly for, like, ladies football versus, say, men's football, you know, where it's such as like physicality, or ladies aren't strong enough and this, that and the other. Like, we do as much work in the gym and this, that and the other. Like, it's nearly the language that people use around women in sport is so important. And if we can even kind of, I don't know how you'd even fix that, put words in people's mouth, but, like, you know, that kind of thing. It's just
make
small
people
things,
aware
like,
of it.
make people aware of it as well. But I definitely think, look, media coverage has come on, you know, leaps and bounds as well, and, you know, there is a lot surrounding it. But then you look at, you know, say a men's game coming up, and what you see about that, you know, a lot of the time you kind of have to look up what time and where a ladies' game is, where a men's game you just know off the bat because you're seeing it so many times a day on the internet as well. So, you know, it is different things like that, but there's so much more to it. I think you'd be here all day nearly talking about what you can do.
Well, you do have a game coming up. So it's next weekend against Mayo is the first round of the league. So you'll be itching to get back out there in the green and gold. Yeah,
absolutely. Like, it feels like it's been so long since we played a competitive game with Meath. Like, we were knocked out in mid-July there against Kerry. So it's been the guts of 6 months now. So you know, it'll be. It's really exciting to get going again. It's probably going to be a new look team and that you're going to see really against Mayo probably. So it is exciting, especially with, you know, new management. And I think it'll hopefully it'll be a good start, and it'll push us on for the year as well.
Is there any players we should be looking out for? Any up and coming that are shining and training already? Or
yeah, like I said, there's been a good few new girls in there. I think obviously Ciara Smith is one name. I think from Screen, she's been up and coming for a few years. She's been in the panel probably 2 or 3 years now. And she's always pushing on, but this year she really does have a pep in her step, and I think it's going to be a big year for her. Hopefully, you know, she stays injury free and finds a bit of form as well for herself. She's going to be a massive player for us this year and the years to come. And obviously Royal Gales won club championship there in Meath this year, so there's a few players in from them, Ella Moyles, Carla Keeley, and you know, you have your Nevy G is backing at it as well, so she's full of energy as usual, so you know, you have your core group still there, but like that, there is a few new girls as well chomping at the bit, so
Meath are trying to get back to the top.
we absolutely are trying to get back to the top. Yeah, that's the main aim. So look, there's so much work to do. We are far from the finished product yet. You know, it's only early in the year, but like, it's a long season, so hopefully we can get back there. Yeah.
Brilliant, Emma Duggan, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Delighted to be joined now by Ciara Brown from Antrim. Ciara, how is things? Are you back in pre-season training? It's that time of year.
Yeah, definitely. We've been back in pre-season from November now, so we're just looking forward to getting out on the pitch eventually.
How has it been? November, that's a long time for pre-season.
Yeah, it's been hard, I can't lie, but if it isn't hard, then it's not beneficial. So I think it's just been more with the weather being so cold and trying to find pitches and stuff, but overall we've been training hard and it's going well. So
oh, that's good. And obviously you come straight from club into the county setup, and then obviously you have college on top of that as well.
yeah, so a lot going on at the minute with university and Antrim too, but both setups are quite good working together, just to avoid any overlaps and stuff. So overall it hasn't been too bad.
And for Antrim, the growth in football over the last number of years, you know, is something that I think everybody is talking about. You definitely see that it is going to new heights, and that's exactly what you want as a player.
Yeah, definitely, we are on the up. It was always just only Antrim or just Antrim, and now I feel like people fear us a wee bit more, which is great to have and great to see. And especially our support as well. I feel like that's been a big aspect of us over the years. Our growing support and just so many people out behind us and pushing us on, helping us get over the line.
And for you, like, what is the ultimate goal? Obviously, it's to be here in the Senior All-Ireland and, you know, playing in Croke Park. But obviously, you've been out in Croke Park now to get a taste for that and wanting to get back there, I'm sure.
Yeah, 100%. I think everybody's ultimate goal is to finish up in Croke Park with the trophy. But overall this year, we are rebuilding and we have lost a lot of depth. So all I'm really looking this year is for girls to step up, especially just being made the new captain there recently. We've lost a lot of experience. For example, Kathy Carey, who was our former captain there, which is a hard loss to take. But overall, I feel like this year we just want to be able to push through, get the girls and everybody else to take another step up and hopefully come out on top.
And here at the launch today, you know, we were hearing so many probably stark stats about the game, the attendance figures of women's sport and as a whole. You know, there was 59% said that they have never ever been to a women's game of any sort, any sporting event. Did that shock you at all?
Yeah, absolutely crazy, to be honest. But you have also seen over the years, especially as a lot of the people this morning were saying, just the growth that you've seen, because whenever I was younger, I went to Croke Park every single year to watch the ladies finals, and I've also been to watch the men's finals, and it was a huge difference in both. But over the years you can see ladies growing a lot, even just the last few years there, the crowd being so much more bigger, so much less seats that were filled.
Yeah.
The years before you could just see more empty seats than there was filled seats, so now just being able to get such a good crowd out, so much better.
Yeah, I was speaking to Emma Duggan from Meath about it there, just about changing people's perception, like what can you do? And one of the things that she said is sometimes the language around the ladies' game, she said sometimes that's something that people could be more aware of, that when they're talking about the women's game, you know, they used maybe not using physicality and things like this. And she was saying to me, like, you know, we train just as hard, we're in the gym just as much, you know, maybe people could be more aware of the language they use around the game.
Yes, 100%. I feel like just with the gender basis, then people do be like, oh, for example, men are stronger, men are this, men are that. But to be honest, like, we put in exactly the same amount of work that the men have. Like our senior ladies, if you would see our senior men training, obviously it's different trainings, but we're there every night, the same amount of nights that the boys are out. We're there doing our gym sessions, doing our extra fitness, eating properly, all these different things. Like the girls is just as hard as any males football is as well. It's obviously on different levels, but I believe that the girls work just as hard, if not harder, than the men.
And do you get the support, say, from the senior men's team in Antrim? Do you ever feel like they come out and watch you?
Well, I'm not going to say no, but I feel like that we could have a lot more support from the senior men, not just them in general, maybe just male population as a whole.
Of course.
But we do have our people that come out and watch. For example, you've got Declan Lynch and stuff come out and support Anya, who's now his wife. people like that, for example, and you see them around a lot, and even just having them there makes you do feel like they are coming to support you a bit more, makes you want to push harder to, I'll say show off, not show off, but you know what I mean, just to show them that we are at a good standard, that we are just as good as the boys.
And that the skill levels are just as high. I think that's the big thing. Like when we see the attendance figures at the All-Irelands, that it was up in 50,000, you know, one of the years, and it's always up in the high 40,000s. You know, people see that, wow, the game is at a really, really high level. And that's what we want consistently. How can we get that amount of people consistently out, you know, to constantly be following the game?
Yeah, big time. I actually mentioned that earlier on this morning too, that just over the years, especially us trying to get out of Division 4 football, every single year the skills better, the fitness is better, just everything about it. The game's just improving every single year upon year. So hopefully with that, the improvement of the skills and the fitness and just the level of enjoyment of it comes with it too, and that the support will help grow then too, because it is more interesting to watch.
Yeah, and how important is it for you as a player to have fans there?
Big time. I feel like that's one of the big things. If you're going down to a match, maybe some distance to travel, and you know that there's not going to be a lot of fans, I feel like that would play on my mind as a player, just knowing that there's not going to be as much there, because when you do have a lot of people behind you, it definitely standds out. When the crowd's going, when you score, if you get dispossessed, they're there to push you on, win the ball back. It just has such a big effect on your performance overall.
And in Antrim, is there any player in particular, any up-and-coming player we should be watching out for?
I feel like this year we have a lot of youth stepping in and stepping through, and we do have our group of core players. For example, Arda Hunsey, Anna Mulholland, Teresa Mallon, like everybody coming through, Gina Coleman, everybody's really stepping up this year, but we do have a lot of youth coming through as well, like Hannah Donaghy from St Bridget's. A lot of young girls stepping up this year, so you'll be excited to see them playing.
Yeah, and I think that's what it's all about, you know, blending that youth and experience, and that's the winning formula, we're always told, and we always see it, you know.
Big time, and so far all them girls have really took a step up in our senior panel this year, and there is no difference between any of us. Everybody's working hard and going for it, so I'm excited for them to get their chance this year to show as well.
Brilliant. Well, thanks so much, Ciara. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you very much. Thank you.